This presentation has been put together in an attempt to offer Canadians a clear proposal for how we might modernize our electoral process and safeguard our democracy, which has been steadily eroded away in recent decades. The objective here is to promote proportional representation as a tried and tested mechanism for bringing about true representative democracy. Proportional representation, or PR, is a type of electoral system which attempts to match the proportion of seats won by a political party with the proportion of the total vote for that party. The basic principle is to treat all voters equally and to make all votes count. If a party gets 40% of the vote, then it gets 40% of the seats. This is not how our current first-past-the-post electoral system works. Proportional representation has been put forward already in 3 provincial referendums in BC, Ontario, and PEI, but due to high acceptance thresholds and rushed voter education, it has failed to be implemented so far. Proportional representation has been recommended by the Law Commission of Canada and advocated by the Ontario Citizens' Assembly. Also, respected organizations such as Fair Vote Canada advocate proportional representation, and they have chapters across the country. Currently, some of our political parties use and have used for a long time proportional systems for their internal party elections. A poll on proportional representation was conducted by Environics Research in 2010. It found that roughly 70% of Canadians support moving towards a system of proportional representation. The same percentage has also been shown in a number of polls done by Fair Vote Canada since 2001. Our current first-past-the-post electoral system has a troubling legacy. For example, in 2008, nearly 1 million votes cast for the Green Party elected no one. Fewer votes in Alberta, however, elected 27 Conservative MPs. In Ontario, 250,000 Conservative votes in the Greater Toronto Area elected no one. Conservatives in Alberta, however, received 7 times more seats than the opposition, with only twice the number of votes. In Quebec, the Bloc Québécois received 49 seats compared to the NDP's 37, even though the NDP had 1 million more votes. There are many, many more examples of these types of inequities that have taken place over the years of first-past-the-post elections in Canada. The simple reality is that here in Canada, it is normal for the government to be governed by a phony majority government that the majority of the people actually voted against. This is simply at odds with what most of us are taught to be the fundamentals of democracy, and it flies in the face of representation for the people, by the people. Here's an example of our typical electoral results in Canada. These results are from a number of years of elections. As you can see, the norm is for 60% of the seats to be obtained with only 40% of the vote. Our first-past-the-post elections result in governments, both majority and minority, being formed with just 25% of the electorate being involved. This is a graphic representation of that fact. As you can see from the top bar, 61% of the seats are usually obtained by 40% of the vote. What's concerning is that 60% of the vote, shown in the second bar, usually results in only 40% of the seats in the legislature for the opposition. What's perhaps even more concerning is the 40% of the electorate that don't bother to vote. Shown in the bottom bar, this 40% taken away from the total potential votes results in only 23% of the eligible vote, resulting in 60% of the seats in the legislature. The time has come for Canadians to step up and demand that their politicians do what is best for Canada and not just best for political gain. The time has come for the opposition parties, and particularly the opposition leaders, to put aside partisanship and to begin to set an example for how fair, equitable, and collaborative governance can work in Canada. The opposition parties must seize this opportunity to begin the long overdue dialogue that will pave the way for a mature new political model to shepherd us into the 21st century. What this proposal is putting forward is to form a Liberal NDP Green Party working alliance to run one opposition candidate for each of Canada's 308 ridings. Most alliance incumbents will continue to run in their current ridings. A number of ridings would field candidates chosen by multi-party nomination votes to try to achieve overall proportionality in line with each party's given popular vote from 2011 election, or perhaps an average of previous elections. Here are some reasons why this is the ideal time for this to be implemented. Certainly the NDP supports PR, and it is in their platform. The Liberal Party has been discussing working together with other parties in some capacities and is also choosing a new leader. The Green Party fully supports proportional representation. The Conservative government is removing vote-based public party funding. Relative weakness in the opposition provides incentive to form an alliance to champion electoral reform and challenge the Tory alliance. Parties have time to agree on other policies that the temporary one-time coalition will table in the upcoming election. Most of the G20 countries and the rapidly developing countries of South America all have coalition governments in power. Here is just a partial list of the 80-some countries that use proportional representation. Many of them have successfully used PR for decades now. Indeed, Canada is no stranger to coalitions. We have had coalitions in this country going back to 1864. In 1997, the Saskatchewan Party was formed by a coalition of former Progressive Conservative parties and Liberal Party members. The Conservative Party of Canada was formed by the merger of the Canadian Alliance and the Progressive Conservative Party. The Canadian Alliance was created out of an initiative launched by the Reform Party and several provincial Tory parties. The Conservative Party of Canada and the Saskatchewan Party are both the result of coalitions leading to mergers, and so it is hard to see how the Prime Minister can claim, as he has, that the Canadian public does not support coalitions. Indeed, his own party was formed by a coalition. Here are some possible outcomes that might result from the proposal that is being put forward in this video. Certainly, if the result was a majority opposition party, then it would clearly give a mandate for a revamp of our political process. Here are some steps that would need to be followed to bring about this outcome. A number of these initiatives are already in place. A petition by Lead Now is already being circulated. Proposals would need to be made to the opposition parties and the leadership. Certainly, media is long overdue to do their part in education and promotion of fair electoral systems here in Canada. Perhaps most importantly, it is time for grassroots organizations to get together and organize town halls across Canada for discussion of this topic. The world today is seeing rapid change and much turmoil brought on as a result of inflammatory, divisive politics used by quasi-democratic, micromanaging governments. The best antidote to this problem is the promotion of mature, transparent, and representative governance. The implementation of a proportional representation electoral system is the first necessary step required to bring about fair, consensual governance in Canada. Now is the opportune time to take that first step.